Yeah.
Just be sure to do this.
Yeah, sure. They can slide it over. And... Great. That'd be wonderful. Thanks, Angela.
I think I can handle it.
I know you can.
Just don't be making me do motions at the same time. I can't do more than one.
Okay. How about Marcia? Is she on?
Marcia's here.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm here.
Thanks, Marcia.
I'm here too.
Thanks, Ben. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our June 26th, 2018 Ogden City Council meeting. I'll let the roll call reflect that all council members are present. We do have two council members that are with us electronically. We've got Councilmember White and Vice Chair Nadolski that are coming in electronically. Councilmember White, say hello.
Hello?
And Vice Chair Nadolski.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for accommodating.
Okay, and we will start our meeting with Mr. Ben Nelson from Troop 167, a scout troop that's come to visit us today. He's going to lead us in the pledge. Ben, come on and come up to the front, and we'll just follow his instructions from now.
The audience, please rise. Please salute the flag. Please repeat the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The audience may be seated.
Ben, can you bring up your troop and tell us your names and what you're working on? Just step up to the mic and tell us your name and what you're working on.
My name is Adam, and we are working on a citizenship community merit badge.
Okay, great.
My name is Troy Ridley, and I'm also working on the citizenship in the community merit badge.
Okay, my name is Esteban, and I'm working on the community merit badge.
My name is Jeremy, and I'm working on the citizenship to the community merit badge.
All right, thanks, you guys. You look great in your uniforms. Thanks for coming tonight. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Now, would you all please join us for a moment of silence? Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda tonight is some recognitions. First is for Independence Week. We've asked Councilmember Lopez if he would make that presentation today.
Absolutely, Chair Heyer. I appreciate the opportunity. It is an honor to read this declaring July 1 through the 7th, 2018 as Independence Week in Ogden City. Whereas Independence Week provides a time to celebrate the independence of the members of the community of Ogden and the entrepreneurial spirit represented by our core of local independent businesses. And whereas the individual decisions every community member makes today affect the future of Ogden, and whereas Ogden's local independent businesses help preserve the uniqueness of the community and give us a sense of place, and whereas Ogden's local independent businesses help preserve Oh, I just read that. Excuse me. And whereas Ogden boasts more than 150 independently owned businesses and restaurants, Ogden's core of independently owned businesses give back to this community in goods, services, time, and talent. And whereas the health of Ogden's economy depends on our support of businesses owned by our friends and neighbors, and whereas Ogden's independent business owners and employees enrich community members' shopping experiences with their knowledge and passion, now, therefore, the Ogden City Council and Mayor Michael P. Caldwell hereby proclaim July 1 through the 7th, 2018, as Independence Week in Ogden City, and salute our community members and locally owned independent businesses who are integral to the unique flavor of Ogden and honor their efforts to make Ogden the place we want to live and work. And with that, Chair Heyer, I move that we approve this proclamation declaring Independent Week.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Choberka. And this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, great. Are we presenting that to someone tonight? Who do we have to receive this?
Kristen?
Kristen?
I can just take it home, Chair Heyer.
Yeah.
You're independent.
We will make sure it gets to who was supposed to have that. So thank you. The next one today is a recognition for Sarah Callister Sellers, a phenomenal young woman who performed very well in her first Boston Marathon. And let's see, we've asked Councilmember Blair if he would present this one.
Yes, thank you, Chair Heyer. Yes, the Ogden City Council and Mayor proudly recognize Ogden's own Sarah Callister Sellers for providing invaluable contributions to the Ogden community. With a time of 2 hours, 44 minutes, and 4 seconds, Ogden native and Weber State University standout Sarah Callister Sellers finished second place in the Boston Marathon on April 16, 2018. No other Utahn has had a better finish in the globally renowned event, and her time qualified her for the United States Olympic Trials. She accomplished all this in just her second career marathon race. On a day when conditions were less than perfect, Sarah represented the community of Ogden and Weber State University with immeasurable poise, strength, and stamina that undoubtedly inspired others around the globe. We appreciate the hard work and dedication Sarah puts forth to master her craft. We wish her our best in her future endeavors and are confident that her success will continue for many years to come. Presented today, June 26, 2018. She lives in Arizona and is training in Arizona, so we will get this sent to her, but just want to wish her well in her upcoming events and thank her for the way that she handled herself that day. And I know there was a lot of buzz created for the accomplishments that she made that week, and so it was really neat to be able to claim her as our own. So
She certainly made Ogden proud that week.
She
That
did.
was really great. And it's, I guess her time was a little more demanded than to try to be here when she's so far out of town. And so we'll excuse her for being here. Hopefully she's able to watch this and take this recognition. And we will make sure she gets the plaque. But thank you, Councilmember Blair. Next item on our agenda is a request to be on the agenda from Ogden's Trail Network, and they are here to do a sunset report. So,
Chair, I've asked Monty Stewart to introduce it, and then he'll introduce who's going to present.
great. Welcome.
Chair Heyer, members of the council, Mayor Caldwell, and Mr. Johnson, thank you for this opportunity. Over the past few months, I've had an opportunity to work with the Ogden Trails Network and have begun to get a glimpse of all of the great work that they do in our city. I'm happy to introduce the Ogden Trails Network, and Shad Burnham is the committee chair, and he will be presenting the Sunset Report today. So I'd like to invite him up here. Thank you.
Thanks, Monty.
Cool. Thank you, Monty.
Welcome.
Thank you. And before I leave, I'll be sure to give you all our nice hat from the Trails Network. We appreciate all your support. I'm actually here to lodge a complaint about the backyard chicken crisis on the trail system. Just kidding. I was told that might open a can of worms.
You made Amy's day.
Oh.
I saw the blood pressure going up, so
Start the time.
I'll leave that slide for the end. Okay. So again, thanks for having us. Starting out, I'd like to just give a brief presentation on kind of what we've been up to the last 3 years and what we're looking forward to hopefully getting up to. And as well as formally ask that the City Council considers renewing our charter for another 3 years. So again, my name's Shad Burnham. I've been with the Trails Network since about 2012. Had the opportunity to get involved through some of my work with the climbing community. And I'd just like to start out by pointing out that everything the Trail Network does, you know, we're engaged in preserving and empowering Ogden's trail users and continuing to kind of maintain, preserve, and develop our trail system. Everything we do is completely volunteer run, with, of course, the exception of our awesome city staff support. So all of us on the committee, of course, we, as you probably hear from many of these committees, you know, we're all very passionate community users, and unfortunately, we have to do other jobs too. You know, I can't downplay the dividends that the work that's being done out there is really paying back to, you know, selfishly, folks like myself that just like to live and recreate here, but you know, really at the end of the day, we really want to help make Ogden a better place and you know, maintain these trails to attract more business and more individuals to live and enjoy Ogden. Our Facebook and social media has been very active over the last few years. You know, we're all kind of bombarded by the interesting articles and things, and this was just, as you can see, pulled off one of our social media pages from about 2 months ago, totally unscripted. We get a lot of support for this stuff. And again, this slide just kind of goes over our vision, mission, essentially, again, just maintaining and developing Ogden's trail system, and you know, really look to you know, promote this awesome resource we're sitting on. I can't imagine how hard this job would be if I lived way out west or something, but here in Ogden, we've got it so easy in this regard. So just go into some of the kind of accomplishments and programs that we've developed over the last few years. We've got 37 current trail adoptees. These are community business partners, organizations that are committed to helping with us. They've actually not only given money to help with their kind of buy-in, but also continually maintaining through a commitment of hours every year. We are supporting all of our adoptees through a series of initiatives we'll talk about shortly, but again, this is everything from trash cleanup and, you know, really basic trail maintenance all the way up to some pretty hefty projects that we coordinate well in advance with materials and kind of manpower there. And if anybody has anything, feel free to interrupt. And just to kind of put this in, you know, if we were to kind of monetize the work that these trail adoptees and various volunteers are putting into our trail system, we're usually seeing over 2,500 hours a year. If we were just paying kind of typical wages for that work, that'd be $40,000 right there that the city's cooped in just purely in volunteer hours on behalf of these trail adoptees. I hope I don't sound as monotone as I sound to me. So a couple other kind of key partnerships that we've looked to develop over the years. Of course, Weber State's a major community partner. We are actually really looking forward to, in addition to some of the work we've done over the past 3 years, including the Discovery Trail system, we are currently engaging in helping to update the park course, and can't downplay how much they support and continue to support our trail system. Weber Pathways, of course, is another major organization, and of course they're focused more on the kind of big Weber County picture. We work with them regularly. We've made some great headway in the last year in regularly attending their meetings and inviting them to attend ours to make sure we're working together and teaming our efforts. If any of you, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the kind of track line, the business exchange loop out where the new NV headquarters is, and of course a kind of major focus for Ogden's economic development. We were kind of made aware, about almost 1.5 years or 2 years ago about some opportunities for trail building out there. And if you haven't been out there, I was pretty skeptical at first, and going down there, it's an amazing area. The city has a kind of section of land out there that's unbuildable, and we've been able to team with the business development team, the developer, as well as some other kind of stakeholders, and the obviously Bloom Recyclers and some of the other key players down there to develop this trail. McKee Foods and Young Subaru have come on as huge supporters as well. Just in the last couple months here, I think we've raised almost $50,000 from these key sponsors. And we're working with business development and some other, like I said, kind of stakeholders here in Ogden to leverage that money for a state grant, as well as volunteer hours. And so we've put a lot of time into that, over 1,000 hours so far. We're looking at maybe about another 1,000 hours to finish the project. That's going to have some larger engineered obstacles. But really the big focus of this was, one, to create something beautiful and unique down in that new area to help continue to help with the kind of economic big picture and just make a nice place down there, as well as help kind of leverage or extend Ogden's trail system to some of these more underserved areas, specifically more on the west side of Ogden. The high school mountain bike teams are very active, and our trail systems have seen a pretty serious impact from that, and a need for more kind of beginner and intermediate trail systems that are appropriate for both those kids and kind of new people to get into it. And so we've really put a lot of focus into this area for that. It's going to be great for events. We're looking forward to a kind of grand opening kickoff event on October 13th this year, and just really excited to continue working on it. Just to give you an idea, the first few months that we were working on it, in one weekend alone, we pulled 4 40 cubic yard dumpsters of trash from that area just in a weekend. So, a lot of work, but as we like to say, we've got weak minds and strong backs, so we're pretty good for this stuff. So yeah, big project of ours. Of course, we've been able to team with the Forest Service and Weber Pathways to develop a trail leader training program so that our trail adoptees can have the resources of people that are experienced trail builders to go out with their groups, coordinate materials and expertise to do some of these more advanced projects, like say bridge building, switchback, and rock wall retention, some of the stuff that's maybe a little above, trash cleanup, that kind of thing. And I should say, this last program, we graduated 15 people from that trail leader training. We're looking forward to continuing to develop that with Weber Pathways and the Forest Service. Part of this initiative has been to really make sure we're visible to the Forest Service as like strong supporters, so that as they go out and take on more projects, they know that they're going to have good buy-in and support from some of these key players like Weber Pathways and the Trails Network for future expansion or development. Some of you may have seen the various erosion scars that were kind of extending above 26th Street and 28th Street on the shoreline over the years. These were massive projects that honestly, that some of these problems extended back to the 70s, from what my uncle told me about riding dirt bikes up and down these hills, and that's how some of these erosion scars kind of started. So we were able to tackle 2 major ones in the last year. That was about $20,000 worth of materials and almost 6,000 or 8,000 pounds worth of lumber and material to get up there and fix it. We were able to source native seed mix and part to help with from Monty, the city's arborist expert, and the Forest Service. These scars crossed private Forest Service and city land in some places, so there's a lot of coordination and background work there. Really happy that we were able to get that done. And again, just kind of talk about the huge community support we're seeing. The stewardship through our event, we've noticed over the years there's obviously a kind of continued graffiti problem on our trail system and everywhere. That's just kind of what happens. In the last year, we scrubbed about 3,000 square feet of graffiti off of our boulders and kind of signs along the trail system here in Ogden. And, again, this isn't a new problem, but a couple years back, we kind of sat back and thought we need some way to connect with the youth and to kind of help spread awareness around this. And so one of our committee members, Erica Lyon, who's an active art teacher at Ben Lomond, she kind of started this initiative where we were able to start more of a community outreach with the kids through the Stewardship Through Art program and kind of spread awareness of the trail system, what's going on out there. And we're continuing to, reach out and partner as much as we can to, one, spread awareness, but I think really build that connection with the kids that, hey, this is a lot of hard work out here and we need to take care of this resource. Of course, the Shindig, that's a great event. That's been a really fun event that we're going to continue to support. Listed a few of our major community partners up here. And just again, can't thank Young Subaru and some of these local businesses for how much they've supported us. Just this last May, Young presented us for the 3rd year in a row as a recipient of their Share the Love event, $28,000 through that event. And the fun thing about this type of fundraising is all this ultimately goes back into materials, tools, and preserving our trail system. So we're very excited to continue to support these types of events. Quick overview on our committee members and some of our non-voting but regular supporters, past members. I just again want to thank the city staff for their support, Monty Stewart, Stacy Olson, Ernie and Jacob Chadwick, Ernie Terrazas and Jacob Chadwick with the Parks Department. We call them they're kind of our SEAL team down there. I think that's probably been bandied around with you folks too, but they're really great. Mike McBride, of course, Perry Huffaker, always in heart and spirit, and then of course Zachary Mon and Lisa with the Forest Service have been huge supporters for us, and we look forward to continuing to team with them. Quick overview on our new and future goals. As the trail system gets ever more popular, we're finding ways to be more responsive and quick to kind of jump on issues, whether that's an erosion problem, graffiti, a damaged sign. These are things that we want to be better at responding at, and it is a challenge with our limited capacity as volunteers, but something that we know is very important because we're trail users ourselves, of course, but just because we want to take this pride in our community. Some active initiatives. We are in the, new trailhead kiosks has been installed in a number of trailheads in the Ogden area in the last about 6 months. This is in thanks part to ATK's kind of carpentry club and through donation of materials and labor from them. And so that we've been able to expand a lot of and update a lot of our trailhead signage. We are, interested in continuing to expand Ogden's trail systems. And so we have a specific subcommittee that kind of researches that stuff and brings proposals forward. We are actively interested in benchmarking our system with some of the other key communities out there. I travel a lot for my day job, and I had the opportunity to be in Boulder, Colorado, and The Pisgah Trails out in North Carolina, kind of benchmarked really famous trail systems. And it did kind of warm my heart a little bit recently. You know, we may not have quite as many trails, but we are very responsive on our trail work. And Boulder County has, I was talking to some of their employees, they have something like 25 dedicated trail workers that are paid people that just work on trails all the time. And their erosion problems, their issues are every bit the same as ours. I was out running on their trails, and they were in good shape, but they were doing the same stuff that we do. And that was kind of fun to say, hey, you know, we're very responsive. If an erosion scar or runnel or a piece of, you know, graffiti shows up on our trail system, we're usually able to take care of it within weeks, and that's something that I think we should be really, really proud of. So we'll continue to try and benchmark and understand kind of where we stand with other key communities there, and try and stay competitive. We are working on a new 4th Street bike park that's a little bit different focus than the one that's up on the foothills right now. Kind of different style, so we'll be continuing to develop that. We've recently submitted for a RFP thanks to some ramp grant funding, and we'll be doing some major trailhead entrance renovations this fall. And again, just in general, try and develop kind of our downtown trail system. There's some good opportunities there that we're looking to close out this fall. And I should mention, I kind of glanced over this quick. We worked with Weber County Health. We were awarded a grant a little over a year ago, almost 2 years ago actually, to implement some trail counters on our system. This is something that's important for them to understand usage, but I think ultimately for us to be able to really understand usage, understand just how heavily these trails are being used and how we can you know, kind of grow with that use. Just to give you an idea, the 27th Street area up there on the shoreline is seeing actually as high as over 400 users a day. That's just, and actually, sorry, you can see right there, 800 during like the really kind of peak times. And so just really impressive. The 29th Street trailhead, 600 users a day. Parkway seen as high as 1,500 plus. So just really impressive, and we're going to continue to collect this data and expand on it. So that's another one of our initiatives. So again, we're going to continue to support the Adopt a Trail system, continue to develop our trail leader training system, and actually create a training system to train more trail leaders, so we can just get an army of people out there working and doing cool projects. And of course, team well with Weber Pathways and the Forest Service. They are key partners. Work to create a regional trail symposium, and as you can see, some other, of course, the ongoing graffiti issues. Support our local events. Moving forward, again, I can't downplay the increased usage has its pros and cons, and you can see in this photo here that we regularly have signs that get shot up. One of our expensive trail use recorders, and by the way, these recorders can differentiate between bikers and just hikers, so it's, there's a lot of work, kind of background here, but just the other day somebody put a BB gun in one and shot the lens out. So, you know, we're always going to have problems, but we just want to be able to respond quickly to them, and I can't downplay the passion we have from our committee, and of course the city support is awesome, but we're, certainly at times kind of bumping against the stops here. And so we just, at the end of the day, it's really important that we're able to be very responsive to these issues and keep this resource as pristine and, awesome as it should be. More opportunities, we're calling them here. We are cognizant of our private landowners, and that is something that we work very hard to maintain relationships with and, keep them happy and work with them to keep their trails in good condition. I won't go into it here, but there's certainly a lot of friction in some of these areas, and this is a growing concern with our community to see that there is a kind of greater plan with the city on dealing with some of this stuff to accommodate the growth and interest in our system. And we want to, along those lines, make sure we're aligning well with the surrounding communities here. Communities, you know, we're working very hard, but we would like to see more of an outreach with the other communities within Weber County. We'd like to see a revitalization of the Outdoor Recreation Council, along with a master plan put in place and followed, not just filed away. And more of a plan for how we're going to continue to fund these repairs and improvements. When I started out in this in 2012, we didn't have money to buy a shovel. We've come a little further than through fundraising and whatnot, but I think it is, you know, everybody asks for money, and I'm not asking for money right now. We've done a great job of finding the money we need, but I think it is increasingly something that needs to be dealt with as this community grows. And just again, stress that what we do here can't stop at the city boundaries. You know, we need to really kind of team with these other communities to make sure we're building a sustainable and large network trail system. Just in closing here, we are an organization of volunteers, managing volunteers with part-time staff support. I think you can kind of tell what my ask is getting at here, but we really want to see the council and the city kind of put a focus on a more permanent position within the city to focus on trail maintenance and development. And again, create an authorized outdoor recreation master plan with a focus on the trail system that addresses many of these private land issues and ongoing planning issues. And please don't file it away. Again, I want to thank everyone. At the end of the day, we get to do really fun stuff and do this in a great community. Our board members are amazing. They've put a lot of work into it. We've got a few of them here today.
Why don't you have them stand?
Yeah, would you guys and gals, please stand? Sonny Hayes, the co-chair. Jerome Berg, board member and past chair. And of course, Dave Stewart. Let's call him a legend of the trail system, and this guy's probably collectively done more work on this and stuff than everyone in the room. So can't thank them enough. And of course, the city team, the planning team, Joe Simpson, Eric Dames, and Greg Montgomery. I've had the pleasure of working with them and learning from them a lot over the years. They're very supportive to this day. The parks team that we work with specifically now, Stacy, Ernie, Monty, Heidi, of course in memory, Perry, Tyler Hansen with OPD, Mark Benini and Rod Kramer with Weber Pathways, and some of their other staff as well. Zach Mon and Lisa Thompson with the Forest Service, and of course, all of you, Mike Caldwell, Jay Louder. And again, I want to thank you all for having me here. I know this is kind of a last minute thing, but I really do appreciate the work you all do. And at the end of the day, we live in a great place, and we all just want to help make that better. Okay, done.
Thanks, Shad. Any questions for Shad?
The use of the 9th Street bike park, is that being used at the present time?
The 9th Street Bike Park, yes.
Okay. And what's the usage of it? How many bikers do you get up there?
I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head. I was privy to that data at some point. I just don't remember it. I don't want to hazard a guess here, but it is used. I will say that the 9th Street Bike Park is what they call a downhill free ride park. It's kind of a specific style of biking, I guess. And so, you know, when we talk about expanding these sort of bike park systems, the 4th Street Bike Park being proposed is more of a kind of a flatter style bike park, so it's focused more on kind of jumps and I'm trying to think how to explain it. It's just a different kind of style altogether. Less focused on the kind of downhill, wearing a full face helmet and the chest gear and going really fast, and more on kind of pumping through and different style of biking altogether. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Mayor has...
Chair, if I may, I'd go back to a slide you guys had in there where it was the ATK woodworking crew. So, you know, dim minds and strong backs is not what this group is made up of. I would say they're rocket scientists and engineers and people that put a tremendous amount of love and commitment into the quality of life for everybody here. So we really appreciate everything that you guys do. Every community that I've ever been a part of would love to have a group of like-minded, dedicated individuals like you guys have created. And I also say it's grown organically. They invite people in. They teach them about it. People have a passion for it. It's not something you can manufacture. It's something that your culture has built, and we really appreciate you guys being a part of Ogden and everything you guys have done to make this so successful. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Mayor?
I echo what the mayor said. My wife and I love to use the trails. We live pretty close to the hills, and that's our exercise. That's the way we get out. And early in the morning, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. They're well maintained. My dog appreciates the dog bowls at the wayfinding signs. You guys have done a great job. Thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you.
Okay, council members, we do have a proposed ordinance ahead of us, extending the sunset date. I would entertain a motion.
Chair Heyer, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2018-19, extending the sunset date to June 30th, 2021.
Second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Stevens to extend the sunset date, June 20th, 2021. This is a roll call vote. You're okay.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye, that passes. So you guys are good for another 3 years. That's great. And again, thank you for what you do. Next item on our agenda today is our common consent portion of our agenda. One item on the agenda today for Security Bank Building Local Historic Resource Designation. Do we have a motion? We're having a little hat distribution, sorry. Go ahead, Councilmember Blair.
Chair Heyer, I will go ahead and make a motion to adopt the item listed under common consent, proposed ordinance 2018-17, setting the public hearing for July 10th, 2018. Is that where we're at?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Chaburka, to set the public hearing for July 10th on ordinance 2018-17. And this is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have public hearings next. The first is fiscal year 2018 budget amendment, year-end adjustments, and
Lisa Stout will be making that presentation.
welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Chair Heyer. Council members, it's a pleasure to be here. So we're going back in time to fiscal year 2018. This is our year-end budget opening to complete the fiscal year prior to Friday. Quickly, I would just like to review the ordinance before you. It is an appropriation to increase revenue and expenditures in the city budget by just under $1.8 million, $1,797,100. In the general fund, we are increasing appropriations for various things like additional payments the city's received, or the amphitheater revenue for the Twilight. We are also including an appropriation for grant revenue we've received through the ramp process that is awarded in March. We have also included an appropriation of $78,000 in this budget opening for a transfer from the Enterprise Fund, Medical Services Enterprise Fund, to the General Fund to buy fire safety equipment for firefighters. This is being funded by sales of ambulance stretchers that have been used. Their life at the city is over. We are also requesting an appropriation for additional funds received for our Union Station through either grants or donations. We are requesting an appropriation for a transfer from the CIP fund. This is contingency funds that have been budgeted in the CIP fund. There was not a programmed use. We're asking that those funds be transferred to the general fund to help with some repairs at 4th Street and Miles Goodyear Park for some light poles that have issues. And we are also requesting that some B and C road funds be removed from the engineering budget to be transferred to the CIP budget. The total appropriation in the general fund is just over $488,000. I went backwards, sorry.
We can't read it anyway.
Oh, I am so sorry. I will make sure it's bigger in the future. Additionally, we are requesting to move money that has been budgeted of $41,000 from the Fire Station 3 construction and return it to the Medical Services Fund. These are funds that were appropriated for the construction that are not being used. They will go back into the fund balance of medical services until they're appropriated by the council for a future purpose. We're also requesting that we recognize a transfer of BDO funds for the amphitheater as a match for a ramp grant the city has received. This is to put new shade canopies at the amphitheater. And we're requesting a use of the critical project contingency. The $24,000 we talked about is being proposed as a transfer to the general fund. The other $78,000 that's sitting in that critical contingency fund is being requested as an appropriation to repair a drain at the 4th Street Park. Additionally, we're asking that we appropriate $50,000 in revenue the city's received from the Dino Park Foundation. The contract with the foundation is that these funds will be appropriated for trail maintenance. And we're requesting the appropriation of the ramp that the city receives based on population to be used at the Lindquist Stadium. We also have requested that the lighting funds that have been appropriated in the CIP fund of $30,000 be moved to the general stadium improvements. These will be used for infield, for the membrane roof. The bid came back higher on that membrane roof. And we're also requesting an appropriation of a grant we received from UDOT. This will be matched with the $150,000 that's being transferred from the general fund engineering accounts, and this will be used for the Centennial Trail land acquisition and improvement accounts. The budget opening also includes a transfer of $30,000 from BDO. This transfer was being used as the ramp match for the canopy shades in the amphitheater. The storm utility has received a grant from the state, and we're requesting that we appropriate these. These were for cleanup improvements along the Weber River in the Ogden boundary. Medical services, we are recognizing the revenues received from those stretcher sales and proposing it as transferred to the general fund to help with the turnout, the fire gear that the firefighters wear. Those are fairly expensive, and they have a big replacement coming up for those. We're also requesting the appropriation of $400,000 in fleet and facilities. In August, when the council authorized the tax rate, we appropriated funds in the general fund to help fund facilities maintenance. We never did the budget opening in the fleet and facilities revenue and expense account, so this is a cleanup from that error back in August. In the municipal grants fund, We have several grants the city has received in the last 6 months. These are various grants. Most of these grants have to do with public safety. VAWA is the Victim of Crime grant. We also have an appropriation to help fund some software for legal for the prosecutor's office, and then a Homeland Security grant that helps reimburse training time that the firefighters spend on hazmat training. We have a FFSL grant. This is to help with additional vegetation along the Weber River that the city's received in the amount of $48,000. And then we've also received I can't read it either. That's really bad. What's that? Oh, yeah, sorry, thank you. It's the Make a Difference Day revenue. These are funds received from Comcast every year. They're very generous in matching volunteer hours. And then the city uses that to help fund additional programs like Make a Difference Day, the supplies needed for those programs. And finally, a change in the major grants of $250,000. We wanted to put this in the budget opening because it aligns with the annual action plan, and we wanted to make you aware of the change that was made mid-year to this program. It was moved from the small business loans to CDBG development for housing. And then we also have an appropriation of $200,000 in the general fund that allocates the payroll contingency that we set aside each year in the budget for retirement and vacation buybacks throughout the year. That nets to zero, so there's no change to the budget, but that is appropriated each year. In your packet, there is much more detail, but the total for Schedule A and Schedule B of the additional appropriations is just under $1.8 million.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Lisa about what she's presented?
Chair Heyer?
Yes, Vice Chair Nadolski.
Just a reminder, I wanted to remind the council and the recorder that some of the funds that are recognized in this budget opening are funds from my employer, and so I'll be excusing myself from a vote on this item.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this proposal? Okay, seeing no movement, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Chair, I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Chawerka, seconded by Councilmember Blair to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Look for a motion on the ordinance.
Chair Heyer. Sorry. I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposed ordinance or adopt the proposed ordinance 2018-16, amending the budget for fiscal year 2018.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Chawerka, seconded by Councilmember Lopez to adopt ordinance 2018-16. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chawerka.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski. Oh, that's correct. Chair Heyer.
Aye. That passes. Thank you. Next item is fiscal year 2019 final budget, and this will be Ms. Janine Eller-Smith. Welcome.
Thank you. So tonight will be the first of 3 public hearings. There are 3 opportunities for the council to hear from the public. We'll also have July 10th, there'll be a public hearing that night. There's also a Facebook Live event, so if people want to, and that will start at 5:30 that evening. So if people want to ask questions over Facebook Live, we can also take questions then. There'll be a final hearing on August 7th. And of course, anybody can always email the council at City Council, or they can call the office. We're always happy to take any comments. So I wanted to just do, again, just a brief refresher course on the certified tax rate. And I'm not going to give the exact same presentation that I gave a couple weeks ago, because I think it will get repetitious. But I also wanted to make sure, because it's a difficult and kind of complex idea, to try and help people understand that. So Utah's property tax rate is designed to what they call for revenue neutrality, which means that we're entitled to receive the same property tax amount, that's the dollar amount, that we received the previous year. And so in order to do that, to make that calculation, the state takes the valuation for the whole property, for property in the entire city, and subtracts things, dollar amounts that go to RDAs and CRAs. They make some adjustments for changes in valuations when people have, protested their assessments and collection rates, and they come out with what they call the certified tax rate, and that is the rate that generates the same amount of property tax that we received the previous year. And so that's how they get to that number. What it doesn't do, though, is it doesn't adjust for inflation. So we're literally getting the exact same dollar amount that we got the previous year. So that has caused some problems over the years when it doesn't adjust for inflation. And as I've showed you the last couple of years, if you take the present value for property tax revenues that were received 20 years ago, you can see that we actually received less money in real dollars than we received 20 years ago. And the only reason we've been able to maintain the service levels and everything is because other revenues have increased, such as sales tax. So I did that second line up there that shows FY 1999 to FY 2019 shows that we're about $1.4 million behind what we had 20 years ago. With the proposed tax rate increase, which is 8.82%, that would bring us closer, but still not to the same dollar amount that we had 20 years ago. And I always want to show this because sometimes when we talk about tax increases, percent increases, everyone assumes that that's on their total bill. And in fact, it's just on what we are proposing only affects that percentage or that part of your tax bill that goes to Ogden City, which in this case is 18% of the total tax bill. So when the state and the county went through that certified tax rate calculation, they came up with a number of 0.002851. That would be the levy that we would assess to the residents in the city if we wanted to only receive the same property tax amount that we received last year. So the proposal from the mayor and what you're considering right now is just to maintain the current rate, which is just a little bit higher. But because by maintaining the rate, property values have increased, and so the city would receive more property tax than it received in the previous year, and that by state law is considered a tax increase. So by this 8.82% increase, we expect an additional revenue of about $1.2 million. The average home value in Ogden right now is $196,000. That's actually up significantly from last year. Last year, it was $167,000. So when we calculate the impact on the average home, it's $27. And what that really means, it's not $27 more than a homeowner paid the previous year. That $27 represents the difference between if we charge the certified tax rate that came from the state and if we maintain the rate. That's the difference. So $27 a year, that's an annual amount, or about $2 a month, is more what they would pay on their taxes if we increase or maintain the current rate instead of going to the lower rate. One of the questions, most frequently asked questions we get from residents, and it's a concern, is that their property values have increased. And so I thought just to take a look, because I have 7 of you here in front of me, and it's all public information, I pulled up your property values and took a look at them and compared them from last year to this year. And it's really interesting because I think it's a fair representative of what your constituents might see. A lot of you, there's a wide range of values in your homes. You live in different areas of the city. And so you can see how different the percent increase in property value. Now, one lucky council member, there's no increase in his property value this year. And so as a result, the tax increase won't affect that person at all because it's just maintaining the rate that we have last year. But, you know, some of you have one of you might see a 25% increase in your values, 14%. So you can see how much it varies. When they calculate the certified tax rate, that's for the city as a whole. How it affects individual property values or property owners just is going to vary. And so what we did, and we've done this for the last couple of years, is on the council's website, we have a little interactive calculator where you can go in and there's instructions about how you can get the information from the Weber County tax records on their website, or you can get it from the information that they've mailed you that you should have received. And you can go in and you can calculate what the impact of the tax rate's going to be on your property taxes.
Janine?
Janine?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Marcia.
Marcia.
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this. This is an annual rate, so it's not a monthly rate, right?
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. It's an annual rate. Just want to make sure.
Right, because we only assess, property taxes are paid, well, they're due once a year. Now, some people may be paying them with their mortgage, so they're paying it once a month, but the actual increase is just for the annual amount that's assessed on your property values. I don't know if that makes sense.
Thank you.
It's hard to explain to citizens why there's such a wild range difference, and I don't think we can as a city, because we don't make those assessments.
Right, and thank you for pointing it out, because that's one of the points I wanted to make, is that it's the county that makes the assessments on your property. The city has no control over that. It's the county that places the values on your homes, and they do have a method of protesting those values. We often hear from citizens, the value on my home's too high. I know that my house isn't worth that much. I thought it was interesting because I took a look at the county's website this week in preparation for this presentation, and they said that 77% of the appeals that they get on their property values are granted. So that's a pretty high level, because what they're calculating, they use a computer model to generate the appraisals on your homes, the values on your homes. And so, of course, they're bound to be off on a onesie-twosie kind of matter. And so if people want to take a look at it, just, I mean, it never hurts to go through it. I don't know what, I've not done that myself, so I don't know how difficult the process is, but the appeals are made through the clerk auditor, the county clerk auditor, and they have all that information on their website on how to do that.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that just a couple weeks ago, a person representing Weber County came up and asked me questions about my home, and there was a couple of things that were different than what the public record said. So the amount of bedrooms or something, and those were different, and so they just changed it right on that form. They came to my door and asked me, so I don't know if they're doing that in every neighborhood right now, or if they do that periodically, or exactly how they assess that.
I've been told that they do rove around. It's a rotation.
Yeah, they did
that
my
they go.
whole block, the whole area, so.
I have appealed my value before, and it wasn't that hard. We took some comparables of homes that had sold that were similar to ours, and they just
made the change?
They just made the change.
Yeah, so when you figure 77%, I mean, that's pretty good odds, right? That you have a 77% chance of getting your taxes lowered.
You have to take some proof, they're not, but I think if you do, they'll accommodate you.
So this is kind of what the calculator looks like on our website. It's pretty easy, just have to plug in the numbers off of your tax bill or off the county's website, and it will generate an estimate. It is only considering, we know that the school district is making increasing taxes, or at least maintaining their rate, and so I did take into account that increase, but if there are other entities that are doing that, that wouldn't be reflected in this number.
But this one does include the school districts?
It does reflect the school district's change.
Hey, Janine, will you also mention that it's at, isn't it 55% of your market value or something like that? Will you also describe that?
On your tax bill, there are two numbers. There's one that says a market value, and there's a number that says a taxable value. And the reason there's two numbers is a market value is supposedly what you could sell your house for if you just put it on the market. The taxable value, under state law, if it's your primary residence, it's only taxable at 55% of the market rate. So that's why that taxable rate is much lower, and it's the taxable number that you want to use for your calculations. So this is the Weber County Assessor's Office phone number that you can call them, and they can direct you on how to appeal your property values if you're interested in doing that. We actually had a couple of citizens contact us and asking us why we're not giving money to our public safety officers. And in fact, we have, for the last 2 years, made sure that they've got raises. And this year, one of the proposals under the Schedule A1, which will be considered with the final budget, is a loyalty pay program, and I'll go over that in just a minute. Significant amount of money is going to Union Station, and then there's proposal for a full-time diversity officer and an additional accountant. And that's a proposal for spending that $1.2 million. So the proposed public safety loyalty pay is really to help with the retention and recruitment of sworn public safety officers. And the way it works is officers will get a bonus every year that they stay with the department. And then in year 10, so that's for the first 5 years, and then in year 10 and every 5 years after that, they're eligible for a $5,000 bonus. And if they opt to have that $5,000 go into a verified retirement account, then the city will actually double that, so that it could actually get an additional $10,000 in their retirement account. And so the total cost of this project is $546,000 for FY19. So more than $500,000 of that tax increase will be going to public safety.
Is that coming out of the department budget then?
It will go into the department budget, so it will come into the general fund and then be dispersed through property taxes, and then be put in the department budgets.
And can I just reiterate that that's the police and the firefighters?
Correct. Mhm. Another significant amount of that money is going to Union Station. For several years, the Union Station Foundation was under a lease and operating agreement with the city, and they operated Union Station. In September of 2017, we started the process of taking that back over, and so the city is now responsible for maintaining and operating Union Station. We do have the sesquicentennial, the Golden Spike, coming up in 2019, and I know that the administration's anxious to kind of do some sprucing up down there because it's such a significant and iconic building for our city. So the tentative budget to the proposed final budget, it's a difference of almost $4 million. Some of that $1.2 million will go to the general fund. That's the amount that would come in with the additional property tax, and then in turn some of that money would go into the CIP for work at Union Station. As you know, the council has several priorities that we've outlined in the last couple of years for the budget, and I just want to focus on one thing tonight because it's one of my favorite projects, and I'm glad it's finally taking root. We have the Neighbor Up Grants Fund, which is a grant fund that we are running just out of the council office, and it's an opportunity for neighbors, community to reach out to people in their community and do some good things, get to know people. It's meant to generate some friendships and kind of reach across racial boundaries and other kinds of diversity boundaries that, and we hope they'll really work. We've had our first one that happened at the first of this month that was very successful. We've got a second one coming up in the Eccles area, and so we just would encourage anyone out there that is interested to go to the council's website. There's an online application, and all of the requirements are there as well. So just a reminder, the other opportunities that people will have to comment on this final budget, and just want to know if you have any questions.
Any questions for Janine? Very well done, thank you. This is a public hearing also. If you'd like to address the council concerning the fiscal year 2019 final budget, now would be the time. Still see no movement. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Seeing no movement, I will go ahead and make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Stevens to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Hey, Chair Heyer,
Yes, sir.
being how we're going to have other public hearings on that, do we need to continue this or do we actually close this? I made a mistake there.
Do you know what? I did too.
So
Let's make a motion to reconsider.
we just, yeah, so I need to make a motion to continue this public hearing, correct?
Yes, that's what we need.
That's my fault, sorry.
Okay, we'll
I
amend
was
that.
so excited to get
Initial
ahead.
motion to close.
Councilwoman
To
Shaburka.
continue. We've got that okay?
I will make a motion that we go ahead and continue this public hearing
To July 10th.
to July
right?
10th.
And
Or July 7th, is it July 10th?
July 10th.
July 10th, yep,
2018.
2018.
Okay, second okay with that? Okay. Have the motion by Councilmember Blair, second by Councilmember Stevens to continue this public hearing to July 10th. And this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Next item is fiscal year 19.
Chair Heyer, can I make a quick comment?
Yes, Councilmember White.
So I appreciate that we are looking at moving some of that money into a CIP fund where it's, asset driven, and I just really appreciate that the administration did relook at that, and it just makes it, in my opinion, more transparent. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I agree with you, Councilmember White. I appreciate that too, and they're shaking their head over there, so thank you for that comment. Okay, and we have Miss Amy Mabey gonna present the fee schedule amendments.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Brandon. So before you this evening are the fee schedule amendments for the FY19 budget. And just to give you a little bit of timeline, so we had a discussion on the fees on June 5th in your work session. On June 12th, you set the public hearing, and here we are at the public hearing. So there are proposed fee changes for the police department, the fire department, the airport, and Union Station. And so for the police department, it's actually a change in animal services, and the proposal is to eliminate the lifetime dog license that's currently offered due to a lack of revenues that have been received. The fire department's proposal is dealing more with the medical, and to remove a mannequin rental fee because they really don't rent the mannequins out, and then also to increase costs for CPR recertification and actually offer a new course. This is to align with the costs that are required to get cards issued to the individual. So there's kind of a carry forward cost that goes through. So for the airport, these fees are being recommended through the Airport Advisory Committee as well as the administration. And so they're looking at increases in land lease rates for improved and unimproved, and then also for non-aeronautical activities out at the airport. So also for the airport, they're looking to simplify a little bit on the tie-down fees for airplanes. And so previously it focused in on single engine and then a breakdown of the weight of twin engine airplanes. And so this would actually just go 12,500 pounds or less or over that weight for the two rates. So it simplifies the rate structure quite a bit. And then also with the airport, there's a proposal to add a TSA badge application fee for $10 to increase the air operations area access fee that's a biannual fee, and then increase overnight parking by 50 cents a day. And then also for the airport, and this is for outstanding debt that is incurred past 30 days of the required payment, to increase the late payment fees.
Hey, Amy, I have a quick question about the TSA badge.
Yeah.
Is that something that other airports charge, or is that just, I mean, is that what it costs us to maintain it, or why do we have that?
I am not certain on that. Mark may be able to chime in.
We do know other airports charge. I'm not prepared to be able to tell you how much, but I think we were fairly competitive when we set the price. It does cost us money to be able to do the investigation and do the badging and whatnot, so we feel like it's a very fair price. And most of our fees are supposed to be based on actual cost, what it costs us to be able to do, you know, the particular service that we're providing.
There is a background check that needs to be done to get that badge, and that isn't not free. So
no, it's not.
No, thank you for the clarification on that. Does that help, Councilmember White?
Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you chiming in. So then, oops, I already went through that one. So for Union Station, and Janine Eller-Smith hit on this a little bit, but the city recently took over management of that operation once again. So this is a whole newly proposed fee structure. The city hasn't had a fee structure for Union Station in the past 10 years. This is mostly reflectant of the actuals. There are a few modifications to what is currently being done, but for the most part, just kind of goes through and breaks down all of the different types of fees that are assessed there and how those work. So there's admission fees, and those break down into a variety of different categories, as well as having a family day pass, military offerings for free for active military, and then military discounts. And then, there's annual memberships that are offered as well, and then just kind of the cost breakdown for those, kind of a similar structure and breakdown with those, and then a military discount as well. And then there are a couple of different tour options for field trips for school groups, and then also for group tours. And so the pricing for those is also broken down in the fee structure.
Hey, Amy, sorry,
Yes.
Before you go on.
You're just fine, no
I
problem.
have a quick question. I have a quick question. Do we have something where we could do like an annual membership to Dino Park and the Union Station and any of those other, city-related, membership fees that we could? Have we considered any of those as well? Like, I can go to Dino Park and I can go to the Union Station and I can go to wherever. Do we have any of those?
Currently, Dino Park and the Tracy Avery, easy for me to say. Currently, they have an agreement where they swap. So if you buy a pass to one, you can go to the other. I don't know that we've ever thought about Union Station and Dino. That's a good suggestion. We'd have to make sure that those who run Dino, we don't run Dino Park, we'd have to make sure that they were willing to do that. And it might be fun to have a pass with Treehouse and Dino and Union Station. I could see some value there. We'll explore it, but it's not one we've ever looked at.
And I think Treehouse
And maybe even the Ogden Nature Center too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Treehouse and Nature Center do something similar with
I
that
think
right
so.
now too. So
But we'll engage in the dialogue. It's a good suggestion.
thank you, Councilmember White.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, this is what this is here for, so thank you. So the next couple of slides go through, and there's kind of a lot of detail, so if you want to dive into the details, we absolutely can, but the room rentals, and there's various rooms and facility rental options at Union Station. A lot of these with the rates are based on the capacities as well as services provided. Some provide kitchens. And then also with the weekend rates, those are a little bit higher. So it just basically goes through each of the different facility areas that are rentable. And then there's also included in the ordinance some additional room costs and options. So, for example, events that extend past 10 p.m. from 10 to 12 p.m. would have an hourly rate of $300 an hour. If there's a desire to use certain AV equipment and projectors, then that would be based on the contractor cost to do those. Events with alcohol service would require a security officer for every 150 people at $150. And then with museum reservations, that actually is an option that's included in here. So either they get a discounted rate to go into the museums, or if they actually want to rent out the museums during non-hours, then they have the option for an hour time block for that as well. And then deposits are required for the rentals, and so depending on whether it's just for the room or with food and with alcohol, those vary, and those are fully refundable depending on if they're merited to be received back. And then Union Station also has a library of historic materials, and so with that, they do have some technicians in there, so there would be a research service fee if someone wanted assistance in researching some of Ogden's history at $25 an hour. Also some fees associated with photocopying or scanning materials, depending whether they're published or unpublished in the archives. And then image licensing fees, so if they actually wanted to utilize the images or print the images, they'd have the option with that. And there's a couple of different rates. One's for scholarly and then commercial use if they're doing up to 5,000 prints, but then if it's anything past that, then it would be a little bit higher rate. So that is the extent of the fee ordinances. And as you see before you, you actually have 4 different ordinances to take into consideration. There is a proposed just minor amendment to the airport ordinance to, there was another item on the agenda this evening, but just to clean up the language a little bit on that to reflect the Ogden Airport versus the new name that was proposed but then pulled back and off of the agenda. So any questions this evening on the fees?
Any questions for Amy?
Oh, okay.
Sorry, there's a lot there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This also is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council regarding this item or any of these 4 items? Please give us your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Blumel. I'm a business owner out at the Ogden Airport. First of all, the original leases that were given for the last 20 years always reference CPI for any changes in the cost of the leases out there for the ground at the airport that we built our buildings on. And this would be a change from that doesn't reflect the original contracts that were made in those leases. So I would indicate that CPI needs to be the only reference that's used in determining what the fees need to be. Many of the hangar owners out there at the airport are still without leases and have been without them for a year, new leases that is. And there's the current lease agreements are still in flux and being modified month to month. They're always changing, and so they really haven't even finalized what the final leases are. Many of the lease owners out there are actually in litigation currently, or in the process of having litigation over the lease change, because the existing leases say that the owners have the first right of refusal on that particular lease and not necessarily a new lease. And actually this has been fought actually in Glendale, Arizona, which obviously a different state. 2 years ago, a very similar case was handled, and in the end, the airport, the pilots and the hangar owners at the airport won the lawsuit against the city of Glendale, Arizona, and it was almost an identical situation as to what's going on currently out at the Ogden Airport. The FAA does not define what aeronautical is versus non-aeronautical businesses, even though the city has claimed, or I should say the airport management has claimed, that that's all due to the FAA and the fact that they're saying that non-aeronautical businesses don't belong at the airport. And I actually wrote a letter to the FAA asking them to clarify that, and they put the onus back on the city and they refuse basically to define what aeronautical is versus non-aeronautical in terms of hangar usage. And the existing old leases, as I indicated, do have a first right of refusal clause. And from the legal conversations I've had so far, there's nothing that would indicate that a new lease is required and justified by the city.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, come forward and give us your name, please.
Are these about the fees? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep up here.
Well, it didn't sound like it was directly related to the fees, but some other issues at the airport.
I think isn't he suggesting that he's already got an agreement in his lease?
I think that's kind of what that was kind of what the notes I took.
That's what I gather.
Lease land rates.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Right here. Dave.
Speak on the microphone,
My name
please.
is Dave Carlson. I'm a business owner at the Ogden Airport. I've got just 2 quick things on the price raise on the badges, which I just saw that tonight, which was new. That's pretty much an 80% increase. I think, I'm not sure, but I think the only time we get background checked is if we let our badges lapse in the initial time. So we're taking another $16 every 2 years from us, which is fine. I mean, it's peanuts, you know. But if, and I understand Sati's working a lot overtime to pay for that, I get that. But if that money, I mean, is that money going to be held as in, hey, it's accountable? Because that is a lot of extra money that's going to go into the city somewhere. I just want to make you guys make sure that you're aware of that. I'm also, both of you have met with me, as far as this non-aviation, are we bringing that back, non-aviation commercial? And if we do, and this is approved, and those rates are approved, and can you pull that, where's she at? Can you pull that rate back up for me? They just to make sure it's the same one I saw before. Is that possible on the non-aviation commercial? But who's going to make, I'm asking just basically Mark and Gary, who's going to make that call of what non-aviation commercial businesses are allowed? Are we that going to be the airport manager, or is that going to be like the meeting that we had with relation to the city council and the airport? Is that who's going to make those decisions, or do we know?
We're going to get you some questions at the end when everybody's finished.
So those are my questions basically to Gary and Mark, just because that's who I know we talked with months ago about non-aviation commercial business out at the airport.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council? Okay, seeing no more movement, look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Joberka to close the public hearing. This is a roll call vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Do you mean a voice vote?
Yeah,
Voice vote, yeah, sorry. The meeting is getting a little long, sorry. Any opposed? Okay. All right, we have some questions that have been asked by the public.
Chair, I'm going to ask Gary if he'll answer those questions.
I was thinking maybe he would be the best one to answer them also.
A lot of them are just regarding different arguments that have nothing to do with fees. There's two that I'll give specific responses to regarding the fee ordinance. And that is the Consumer Price Index. Mr. Blumel mentioned that his lease says that it's based on the CPI. His lease also says, like every lease has for the last 30 years, that his lease is also contingent upon whatever ordinance says. And so the ordinance is where we set the fees, and so this ordinance will override whatever that lease has, which is, if not expired, soon to expire. And so one thing I will make a clarification of is that we're not making that big of a jump in the fee rate, because what we have is we have a very old rate that was incrementally raised by the Consumer Price Index. But the Consumer Price Index wasn't keeping us to market with airport lease rates. And so there's a one-time adjustment up by about 25%. And then after that, it will continue on with Consumer Price Index. So this is just to kind of bring us up to date, find a way to start to cut into the deficit, the funding deficit on the airport, although it only cuts into a small portion of that. The other issue that Mr. Carlson raised was aeronautical, and actually they both raised issues regarding non-aeronautical activities. Both of these gentlemen have businesses that have small portions of aeronautical and large portions that are not considered aeronautical. I would disagree that the FAA hasn't expressed an opinion. Actually, they came out with a federal regulation last year that described what is and what isn't non-aeronautical activities in an airport hangar. And so we adopted a policy consistent with that. But as to the fee ordinance itself, it's very important that everybody understands that the fee ordinance will basically set non-aeronautical rent at 4 times whatever the normal aeronautical rent is. But that explicitly does not mean that we can just have non-aeronautical activity. That's only non-aeronautical activity, that's incidental activity that the FAA will approve and be okay with, and that the city approves. It is not kind of a carte blanche to say, okay, now we can have all the non-aeronautical activity we want. The reason for that is simple. The airport is a heavily subsidized asset, both by federal, state, and us. We subsidize that. And in fact, you know, it might even be attractive to a city to take over a hangar and put all their road equipment out there. The FAA says you cannot do that. That's non-aeronautical. So even we can't use the airport for our own non-aeronautical uses. And so please understand that just because we put in a 4 times rate for non-aeronautical, that does not mean that we're going to approve a lot of non-aeronautical activity that would be inconsistent with both the FAA policy and our policy.
Doesn't the ordinance actually encourage us to eliminate non-aeronautical that are,
Yes, that's what the FAA policy is trying to get us to do.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Let's take these one at a time. Let's take the proposed ordinance 2018-12.
Chair Heyer, I have one
Oh, yes.
additional question before you.
Okay, Vice Chair
proceed.
Nadolski, go ahead.
I just wanted to confirm, and I think I know the answer, but I'm trying to remember from the work session on this item. Those fee changes for the airport, they did go through the Airport Advisory Committee, is that correct?
Yes, they did. And they were recommended by that committee.
It was a 6-0, I believe, wasn't it?
I believe so. I believe on one particular fee, there was one commissioner that had a concern, but all the rest were unanimous.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Heyer. Thanks, Gary, for the clarification.
You ready for a motion, Chair Heyer?
Ready for a motion.
Make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2018-12.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed ordinance 2018-12. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes unanimously. Next item is ordinance 2018-13. I'm ready for a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2018-13.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Stevens, seconded by Councilmember Lopez to adopt ordinance 2018-13. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That also passes. And concerning ordinance 2018-13, look for a motion. Or that was 14, sorry, 2018-14.
Chair Heyer, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2018-14.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Chaburka, seconded by Councilmember Blair
I'm sorry, just one moment. There is some language.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, oh, I apologize.
That one, I apologize.
I was
for the-
pointing that out to Bart and I forgot. So I would like to amend my motion and to adopt ordinance 2018-14 with an amendment to remove a reference to the Ogden Salt Lake Regional Airport and to replace this with Ogden Airport.
Okay. We have an amended motion from Councilmember Chaburka, seconded by Councilmember Blair, to adopt ordinance 2018-14 with amendments. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. And that passes. And finally, ordinance 2018-15.
Chair Heyer, I will make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2018-15.
I second it.
I have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Stevens, to adopt ordinance 2018-15. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Hire.
Aye, that passes. Whew. There we go. Only a few mistakes. We did good. All right. Next item on
Chair
our...
Hire?
Yes, Councilmember White.
I have just a quick comment, and I appreciate, I just wanted to make a comment that I appreciate Mark and the mayor looking into maybe looking at a passport, or I don't know what you want to call it, but something where maybe more of our citizens can attend more of these areas, the Dino Park and Treehouse Museum and Union Station. So I appreciate that they're going to look into that. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next item is the Airport Advisory Committee amendments.
Tom Kostopoulos will be making that. And if he seems nervous, the polls close in about 20 minutes.
Welcome, Tom.
Chairman Hire, council members. The city administration is proposing the change to the Airport Advisory Committee. The proposed changes include reducing the number of members from the current 9 to a range of 5 to 7, and we'll talk a little bit about why we're asking for a range. Amending the residency requirements and reducing the number of required meetings from 4 annually to 2. The Airport Advisory Committee has been established since 1978. The committee has sunsetted several times, and its creation has been extended each time. The committee was established to advise the City Council and the Mayor in matters pertaining to the operations of an airport. As such, the Airport Advisory Committee ordinance was adopted to establish the purpose, eligibility in terms of appointments, meeting requirements, general function, and other similar standards for the committee. An airport feasibility study was completed recently, which established several primary objectives for redeveloping the airport, which we have been addressing with the Airport Advisory Committee. The objectives include the development of commercial passenger service, air cargo service, general aviation growth, and new business aviation, which is also part of that general aviation growth. The transmittals that we have given to everybody was to basically support these objectives and to reposition the airport to a more regional basis. This was to be so that we could more effectively identify ourselves and the regional airspace and to take advantage of the proximity that we have to Salt Lake and to other airport centers along the Wasatch Front. The administration is proposing several changes to the structure of the airport advisory in order to gather input more effectively from those who can contribute directly and to gain better input and consistency as we work with the Airport Advisory Committee. The proposal changes the number of required meetings from 4 to 2. That doesn't mean that that's all the meetings we'll have. It just means those are the required meetings. We meet on a much more regular basis as it is, as issues arise, and so that's one of the things that we'll be working on. So the current proposal basically puts forward these ideas as indicated, changing from a range of from the current 9 to a range of 5 to 7. Open eligibility members from both Weber and Davis counties, which goes to us trying to make the airport more recognized as an important element to both counties. Require at least 2 members instead of 3 members to be residents in Ogden City or have their principal place of business in Ogden City. Remove the requirement that at least 5 members be residents in Ogden City or persons whose continual principal place of business is in Ogden City, and reduce the number of annual meetings as we have indicated. So those are the primary changes that we have worked out. The question was with the advisory board with their input, and we think that will make us more responsive to the number of changes. And amongst those changes are the significant amount of increased traffic at the airport that's been occurring, and a number of additional businesses that are currently looking at the airport, and we think that we'll be able to respond more to those and other opportunities as they are generated. And I don't know if there are any questions from anyone.
Any questions for Tom?
Just a comment. In our work session, we talked about the influence of Ogden on the advisory committee, and I think this is a workable solution that we've come up with to not only have somebody that may live in Ogden but has an interest in Ogden with their businesses and that. So, but we talked about that at great extent.
Any other questions, comments?
I just have a comment. I'm looking at the current categories that the board advisory committee members are currently in. Looks like they're all categorized as pilots except for one business owner. So I would hope that this change also will help to diversify that representation. Maybe they were miscategorized. Maybe they have many hats, as many of us do. But I feel more confident with losing the majority of Ogden City representation if we have more of a diverse body overall. So that's what I'll definitely be looking for in the new makeup.
One of the things that we'll recommend to the mayor is that we look for a lot of business diversity, especially aviation business diversity, no matter where it comes from, whether it's Weber County or Davis County. And so that we can get a little broader input. It's not that all of the members that, as described, are pilots. They are still businessmen in various regards, but it does allow us to get a little bit different, broader perspective, and to, again, reemphasize, get us focused on regional strategies that can help us grow the airport.
I was been watching this since the airport advisory first visited this. I think it's a great solution to our airport advisory committee. I think it's going to solve some of the problems with meeting ordinance, not having a meeting just to be having a meeting, and it will engage the members better, especially if we have the diversity in the backgrounds of these members. It should really help some of the recommendations that come from that body. And I think it's important that we also notice that they are just a recommending body. They don't have any power to enact ordinance. They just recommend to this body. So I'm really comfortable with this. I think that's a good proposal. Thanks, Tom.
Tom, one question. Those currently out there at the airport, does this commission also do they have a voice to that, on that commission? If I owned a hangar out there, I would still have a voice with that advisory commission?
They always have, yeah, the advisory members, and we hold open meetings that the general aviation public and the general aviation can come to, and they have discussions, and a lot of times it also happens through informal channels. They'll contact members of the advisory board with concerns, and they'll come forward. So that's not going to change. It's just the way we constitute everything. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council members, I'll look for a resolution.
Chair Heyer, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed ordinance 2018-20.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Lopez, to adopt ordinance 2018-20. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
No.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes 6-1. Councilmember White, if you would like to explain your no vote, we would entertain that.
Yes, just real quickly, I just want to make sure that, I think I've said from the beginning that I think it's important that if it's still our airport, we should have the majority vote. I think we've done a great job, and I don't want to make it sound like it's not going in the right direction, but I just really think that until Davis County and the other mayors or whatever we deem steps up to the plate, that we still have the majority vote. So I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and I just want to make sure that we're continuing to try to have the majority vote on that.
Okay, thank you. That will be noted. Next item is new business, financial audit contract discussion or resolution. And
Chair Heyer, if I might just do that from here, if that's okay.
Janine, please do.
Thank you. So the council contracts with a financial audit firm to do the financial audits every year. As you know, the budget is primary responsibility of the council, and also making sure that it's prepared, all of the financial documents are prepared appropriately. And so in 2013, we entered into a contract with Hanson, Barnett, and Maxwell for 5 years. And shortly after we entered into that contract with Hanson Barnett, they were acquired by Eide Bailey. And so Eide Bailey has been the city's auditor for the last 5 years. That 5-year contract did not have an extension clause. And when I talked with the finance people and with Mr. Johnson about whether we should renew this contract with Eide Bailey or go to bid for a new firm to do the auditing for the city, we concluded it for the time being it would be better to stay with Eide Bailey because of the implementation of the enterprise resource planning program that's taking place and taking up a lot of staff time already, and to add the burden of having a new auditor on top of that would just made it very difficult for the finance people. So we're proposing a 2-year contract with Eide Bailey for fiscal years 18 and 19. Those are fixed cost contracts, with FY18 being $52,500 and FY19 $54,500. And because those contract amounts are above my signature authorization, it requires council approval. So we're just recommending adoption of the resolution 2018, which authorizes Chair Heyer to sign this contract.
Okay, any questions for Janine? All right, well, we'll look for a motion. Not a lot of motion makers here tonight, is there?
Chair Heyer, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2018-9.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember Stevens to adopt resolution 2018-9. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nadolski?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye. That passes. Okay, now we're to the next item on our agenda, which is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic. It would be a good time to come forward if you would like to address the council. I'm seeing no movement. Going. Nobody wants to talk to the council. Okay. Then we will move on to comments from the mayor.
Couple quick things. I hope everybody took the opportunity to vote. That's one of our great rights as citizens. That was today, so I hope everybody had an opportunity to do that. Appreciated everybody's patience. I think the transparency in the financial processes we go through as we look at rates and everything else is really important. I know that was a lot of information, but I think it's critical that we put that out there and let people understand what's going on. So I want to put a huge thank you out to everybody that participated in the Partners in Success. We had 2 huge concerts. The farmers market opened on Saturday. A lot of time and effort goes into that, and I want to give props where they're due. Councilman Bart Blair aced hole 12 at the Mount Ogden Golf Course for a hole-in-one. Did us all proud, and so you publicly ought to be called out and be given some props for that. That's it for me.
First hole-in-one either. He's a pro at that.
Gamer.
All right, thank you. Council members, any comments?
I'm Bart's coach, you know.
Hiring?
We had the farmers market open, a lot of people down there. It was enjoyed by many, so it's off and running, and there's a lot of activity there. I would like to remind our citizens that this month we're still in the process of recycling, and so anything we can do to improve our recycling, I'd appreciate that, and it helps our city out. It decreases our cost and makes us more transparent in how to recycle our products there. So,
okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I just want to say, you know, I didn't say when they were here, but the Ogden Trails Network, I just think that group is so awesome. I mean, I knew only a little bit about what they did before this presentation, and I'm super impressed with the amount of hours, the dedication, and all the partnerships that they've developed in that work is really wonderful.
Ogden is the best at volunteers. We have some of the best citizens that we get involved, we don't worry about. You know, it's just great. The trails people are just a small part of that group. There's people that volunteer for a lot of things. Some people, we don't even know what they do. They just get involved. Make a Difference Day is very well attended. It's just a great place to live. Ogden is wonderful.
And I did hear them when they said they would love to see a dedicated staff member, so maybe next year and the next year we can consider that.
Yeah. Tomorrow is the Employee Appreciation Picnic, and we look forward to participating in that. And just as a reminder, there will be no meeting next week. And I tell you what, we need to give the Scouts a round of applause. They've been here for 2 hours, and they didn't leave.
That was a lot of numbers.
Yeah, it's
wow. I didn't even want to stick around for that long.
Yeah, it's impressive. They're all sitting there with even smiles on their face. It's great. So we appreciate them coming and the fine young men that they're growing into. Thanks, young men. Okay, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second.
Aye.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, second by Councilmember Blair to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you all.
Hey, you still have 5 minutes to vote.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you accommodating.
Thanks, Brandon, for this. This was fantastic.
Yeah, super helpful, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Five more minutes to vote.
5 more.
Goodbye.
Asking.